6:15. I'm going to call us to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance. Great attendance. We have all 5 board members present this evening, and thank you, Zephyrin and Maddie, for being here. We have Allie and Casey starring in the play this evening. It's opening night tonight, so everybody who's here, go see the play this weekend. It's going to be amazing. We missed them this evening, but happy to support their love of drama and being performers. We need to adopt the meeting agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Meredith. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Diana. All those in favor?
Aye.
Great. We have no presentations this evening, which is very unusual, but we will skip over that item tonight, and we will go right into public comment. So we have a number of folks who are here to do public comment. Just as a reminder this evening that you have 3 minutes for each person, and there's a timer right there, so you'll be able to watch and see where your time is at. As it gets closer to the 3-minute mark, please wrap up. If you don't, we'll ask you to stop when the timer goes off. And the board doesn't respond to public comments in the meeting. We will follow up with anybody or somebody in the district will follow up with folks as necessary after the board meeting. So we will start with Jax Perry, and we ask you to just go to the podium there and please speak in the microphone for our recording and our live broadcast.
I have a small voice. Can you hear me? Well, I just learned about this meeting about 15 minutes before I got here, and I definitely don't want to discredit any of the wrestlers or parents today. What I wanted to do was, there's been a lot of telling my son's story that hasn't really been from us, and it has to do with the wrestling team. And I'm so proud to see you guys here, so just FYI. But there was an incident, and this was sophomore year at a tournament where the conduct of a coach just went too far. And since then, we're part of the investigation, and we've met with we've talked with Mr. Brewer, and it wasn't something so much as like kids being kids. It was my son got on the bus after not drinking water because he was overweight for a day. He got on the bus that evening and went to Prosser to the tournament. When he got there, they checked into their hotel, and he went and ran for an hour. He was locked outside of the hotel where there was some cops that were there, and he was texting his coach after that hour saying, "Hey, can I come in? You needed a key to enter the building." He couldn't get into the building. He was eventually able to get the coach's attention via text and get into the building. Once in the building, he went to the sauna. He was in the sauna with still no water. And he said, "Coach, I'm not feeling so great. Can I get out?" He said, "You've got 5 more minutes." He was there for 15 more. Now, they got there around 11, so this is like 12:30. And at 12:30 to 1:30 a.m., the coach had asked Carter to get into a hot bath up in the hotel room. And being a high school boy, the door was locked, the music was on, and he got into the bathtub, emaciated and absolutely without drinking water, to which he went under the water, which woke him up, and that was at 1:30. Now, that story is kind of weak and doesn't have a lot of bearing, but Coach texted him the instructions of this as it happened. He instructed him using muscle emojis, and Austin would really want you to push Bud, which is his friend that committed suicide that year. Carter didn't make this story up. It was play by play and sent to me in screenshots, and I was able to read it when he got home.
Thank you for
Okay.
thank you. Thank you for being here. Next is Nash Kirby.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nash Kirby. I'll be speaking on behalf of the boys wrestling team. I've also sent you this in your emails too. We, dear school board members, district and conference titles, and sent many wrestlers to state each year, with many state placers and champions. Most importantly, Coach Lomsdale created a positive, supportive environment where athletes felt valued, safe, and motivated to improve as wrestlers and as people. He placed a strong emphasis on discipline and sportsmanship and provided mentorship that promoted growth that exceeded beyond the mat. He consistently prioritized students' well-being, academic success, and character development over success in the sport. We were saddened to learn Coach Lonsdale's resignation, which believed stemmed from stress and strain on himself, as well as his wife and kids, from the spread of unfounded rumors, lies, and lack of willingness to work out difficulties with other district-employed coaches and members of the community. We believe these false claims were unfair and did not reflect the reality of our coach's dedicated service. No coach or staff members should have endured what we believe reached an unsustainable level of harassment and mistreatment while trying to do their job. We respectfully request the following: public acknowledgement of Coach Lomsdale's many contributions to our school wrestling program and student wrestlers over time, a fair and transparent review of the events leading to the resignation, including how the situation was addressed to ensure school policies on staff support, harassment, intimidation, bullying, and due process are upheld for everyone. If the way in which the group that was dissatisfied with Coach Lonsdale went about gathering and sharing information with the district resulted in intimidation, harassment, bullying, we would like for responsible members of the district coaching staff to be held accountable. We are not seeking to overturn legitimate process, but to highlight that many students strongly value Coach Lomsdale and feel the program and our school community has suffered a loss due to the misinformation and unfair pressure. We hope that this will encourage better handling in similar situations in the future. Thank you for your time and consideration. We appreciate your leadership and hope you will engage with our concerns in the spirit of fairness and community well-being. We are happy to meet with you to provide additional information if needed. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Nash. Next is Adam Paul. public comment. So thank you all for being here. Appreciate your time and engagement with the school board. We are going to move into superintendent comments. So Dr. Bruner.
Yes, thank you. As I begin, I would like to acknowledge the fact that the newly selected superintendent for the Anacortes School District is with us tonight. Dr. Everett, welcome. Thank you for being here. Last Monday, Molly Mitchell-Muma and I, along with Dr. Everett, had the experience of meeting with a group of interested homeschool families within the Anacortes School District area who were interested in discussing how the school district might support them in their homeschool journey. We met with them for a little over an hour, and the discussion was great. It was very positive, and folks were very eager to share where they were with their kids, and in some cases, the reasons that they elected to homeschool. Some were full-time homeschool, some were part-time, and most importantly, they shared with us some of the things that they would like from us that would be helpful for them as they continued homeschooling. So we took that information, and Dr. Mitchell-Muma and I have discussed a variety of options. She and I both come from school districts with large, robust homeschool parent partnership programs. So we have experience with that. Dr. Everett, also coming from Meridian, is familiar with very successful homeschool parent partnerships. So we are talking about ways that we might be able to begin for next year, knowing that we are late in terms of planning timelines, but we feel pretty confident that we will be able to provide something for next year that will serve as a jumping off point for building something that includes more options in years to come. So I would encourage, we're planning to send out an email with some ideas to those parents who attended the meeting last Monday. And for anyone listening who is currently a homeschooler and would like to have information from us about that to be included on our mailing list, I would encourage them to contact our district office. So switching gears, I'd like to share a couple of reflections on time that happens within our school calendar that sometimes is mysterious to families and to students. And that has to do with our 3 professional learning days and also our early release Wednesdays. And those times can be disruptive to family schedules, and they can oftentimes be, again, a mystery. Parents and students don't really know what people are up to. And so I'd like to share a little bit about what my observations have been based on my visits to each of our 6 schools last Friday, starting with our full professional learning days. So this was our 3rd of 3, and what I can report back is that each school I attended had very well designed and well thought out agendas that had been prepared not only by the building principal, but also their leadership team. And the agendas were targeted on topics that teachers had expressed an interest in digging deeper into. So that there were certainly a number of common themes from elementary through high school, including Anacortes High School and Cap Santee High School. One of those was student engagement in academic learning. Another was the use of data to evaluate student performance and also student social emotional status. So as you know, we collect data in a variety of areas, and each principal had a variety of data sources to share with their faculty and discuss what it meant and how it would inform their work going forward. Lastly, our Wednesday professional learning days. They're actually professional collaboration days. And Dr. Mitchell-Moma and I have attended those professional learning communities, as they're called, at each of our 3 elementary schools. Last week, I had the opportunity, or was it this week? I actually think it was yesterday. Things are starting to blend together. It must be March. But I had the opportunity to attend a couple of those meetings at Anacortes High School. And I'll tell you, I was very impressed. Administrators were not present, so these were essentially groups of, in one case, math teachers at the high school, in another case, English teachers at the high school. And math teachers were doing a book study that was all geared towards ways to better reach and teach students in their subject area. And English teachers were focused on unpacking the new standards in English language arts that have just been put out by the Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction. Both groups were very engaged. They were very focused on their content. And beyond that, they were focused on, okay, what does all of this mean for our ability to do better, more successful work with our students? So I guess the long and the short of it is that that time is well used. I've seen it. I've seen it at each elementary school. I've seen it at the high school. Next is middle school. And there is some tweaking that can be done and always needs to be done. And yet, our educators are making very good use of that time. So that concludes my report.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's so good to hear some more detail about those days and how teachers are using it and staff. So thank you. We will move into board comments. I'm going to start with an announcement that was given to me just to let folks know that at the beginning of the meeting it appeared that we had an internet outage that interfered with the recording of our meeting, and it appeared back online in the middle of our public comment portion. So wanted to just announce that if folks are wondering who are watching online or hoping to see the recording, that there might be a little glitch in there that was out of our control, which happens sometimes. Any other board comments this evening?
First, I want to thank everyone for being here. We often speak to empty rooms, and using your voice to share what's important to you is important to us. So, and especially the students, we appreciate this. It's a big deal to let us as adults know what you're thinking. So just thank you to everybody who's here. I wanted my welcome to Dr. Everett. We're happy for you to be joining us today, and I'm sure we'll talk more about that later. And then lastly, I just wanted to remind my fellow board members that April 20th is the DAL 1 session in Arlington, and I've signed up, and I'd love to have some of you go with me.
To take a quick opportunity to thank Dr. Bruner and his staff. We don't have as big of a military community in Anacortes as Oak Harbor does, but there is a large number of Anacortes families and ASD students who have parents that are currently deployed to some pretty dangerous places. And I know Dr. Bruner is aware of that. He's been working with his principals and building leaders to make sure that those students and families are getting whatever support they want, or is it making sure they know what's available to them. So it's a crazy world and there's a lot going on, but I'm grateful that you and your team are providing those services to the students that may be affected by it.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Well, I kind of wanted to echo what Meredith said, so welcome. And then also I wanted to just thank you and your team, Dr. Bruner, for reaching out to those homeschool families and, really making sure that we're looking at our entire community and serving all of the students and being a support for them. So thank you for that work. I know that hasn't been done in a while, and appreciate you getting that ball rolling and including Dr. Everett in that as well. And of course, thank you students for being here. We always want to hear from you. So thank you for letting us know. And lastly, I'll echo the plug for, I won't say anything else, but because they aren't here because they're in the play. This is a one weekend only opportunity, and it is Mr. Burnett's final play. So if you're hoping to see that, they've added in, I think they're going to be exhausted because they're doing matinees on Saturday and Sunday as well, but don't miss it. I hear it's really good. I'm going to get to see it. I always miss opening night because of this, but I encourage you to check it out.
Great, and not to be an echo, but just appreciate you all being here and students participating in civic engagement. Just hope that you continue to do that, and also just we appreciate hearing perspectives of students and families and parents, and we don't sometimes we have an empty room for school board meetings, so also thank you for sticking around, and don't feel like you have to, but we appreciate it. All right, great. We are going to move into then, we don't have a student building report this evening, but we are going to open up to our students for any comments that they may have. So students.
Thank you, Jenny. I have actually a couple comments. The first one is also about the musical. It is Mr. Burnett's final musical final production, including auditions after 30 plus years of working at Anacortes High School. It's called The Theory of Relativity. I've had the pleasure of being able to go to a lot of the rehearsals, and it is really good. And Casey and Ali, who usually sit right there, aren't here today because they are acting in that show. And it is today at 7 in about 15 minutes, tomorrow at 7, and then Saturday at 7 as well, but Saturday at 2 p.m. as well, and Sunday at 2. I also want to highlight that Anacortes High School band and choirs are going to contests next week. We have an annual event up at Western Washington University where we go up and we call it contest, but we're not really competing with other schools. We're singing, or in band's case, playing pre-prepared pieces that are judged. And we have a pretty good track record of getting the best or second best rating that we can. I also want to highlight that on the consent agenda for tonight is a travel approval for the Advanced Digital Media Programs NIFTY Film Festival. NIFTY is National Film Festival. Wow, National Film Festival for Talented Youth, and a lot of people in the digital media program are getting the opportunity to go down to Seattle to visit that and share their own media. Last year we had a student, Asha Malik, who won an award for a film that they created. And this year we have a lot more people going down, and a lot of that is also thanks to the Rotary Club for providing a grant to the Broadcast Club for that. I also want to welcome Dr. Everett. Thank you for being here. It means a lot. And also, 2 weeks ago, on March 5th, the other board reps and I had the opportunity to go down to the Educational Service District building just down there. And we met with other board representatives from the Educational Service District in our area. And that was just a one-day retreat for us to get together and brainstorm how we can better communicate with each other as neighboring districts, and also work closer together with our boards and district leadership. And I also want to thank Dr. Bruner for reaching out to families about homeschool education. I know some families who have really benefited from being exposed to programs that we have to offer in the district, but who are otherwise homeschooled. And it's really changed people's lives that I know, and I just really greatly appreciate your work towards that.
Okay, I won't take long. I'll do a quick one. I wanted to say thank you for all the hard work that everyone's been putting in. I feel like it's been a big month with all the superintendent stuff, and it's been busy, so thank you guys for that. I really enjoyed the ESD retreat. I learned a lot, and I was able to talk to so many people, and one of the main things we focused on was like, how are we going to bridge the gap between us as representatives and the students? And I really am going to continue to look into some plans, but I was talking with a ton of different representatives, and I have like a goal to start like student advisory councils kind of, and don't know how that's going to work and fit yet, but I just want to put that out there that we love to talk to the students. And then I want to say thank you guys for like coming, all the comments, like that really means a lot. And I know it's like scary to come up and talk in front of these people, but it really is like it's really nice to hear, and like I want to hear this stuff to better the community, and we're always here for you guys as representatives, so thank you for that. Yeah, I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. We're super excited that you both were able to go to the student board rep meeting, and there's just like over my time on the board, there's been so many more opportunities for student board reps to network and collaborate and learn from each other and work together, so super excited that you've had that opportunity. All right, we have a finance update. Dr. Frazier is going to share an enrollment report to start us off.
All right, well, thanks for having me back. Here's some simple reminders about the way that we measure and talk about full-time enrollment and the annual average full-time enrollment, just there for reference. And here are the summary of changes for the month of March. So you'll see not a drastic change like we saw in the last month, holding fairly steady. What that looks like compared to the average enrollment for the last 4 years. You see that, again, large drop in February, not common, but it did happen. And also that we're still well above the budgeted amount. So still doing good with that. It's dropped significantly. And just another reminder that we are funded off the annual average. So our funding did not drop immediately with that drop in enrollment, it is still averaged and still holding, again, significantly higher than the budgeted amount, which is good. Good news for everybody.
Great. Any questions on the enrollment report? Just glad that that interesting thing that happened in January didn't continue. So, great. So we will move into the financial report then.
Once again, as we're hoping for, no surprises in this report. But here again, you'll see the beginning fund balances, the current fund balances, and the annual change. We do expect the general fund to be less now than when it started. That's just the natural pattern of the funding and expenditures that we'll look at a little more specifically later. And the debt service fund is down because we have paid some of our debts, which we did in December. Tracking our revenue, here it is coming into the total. So we're about halfway there, and we're about halfway through the year. Much of our funding from the state comes in the last 2 months. So that's good news that we're halfway there. We would expect to be a little bit less than that, and I suppose we are a little less than halfway there. But this is, again, tracking as expected. There's our expenditures, and you'll see if you look at the numbers on the bottom, revenue at $24.6 million, expenditures at $24.8 million, so not a large gap in revenue expenditures at this point. There are those monthly gaps, and you can see the expenditure holding steady as we know it will, and the revenue spiking with the levy and then dropping with withholding of state funding. One thing that I would note to the board when we look at this is that a major expense we have coming in the spring is the second half of our insurance payment. That's typically due in April, and we have worked with them this year to spread that out over 3 months, so it'll be June, July, and August. So it won't be a major hit before June, which will be our lowest month again, and we can pay a large portion of that big payment in July and August once our apportionment payments start coming up. So we appreciate the risk pool working with us on that. It works better for our cash flow, and as long as we make those payments on time, there will be no lapse in coverage. So we worked with them to make that plan specifically in order to support our cash flow. There is our current pattern compared to our fund balance. So currently sitting significantly higher than we projected for a couple of reasons, and one of those is that we started higher than we projected, and the other is the major adjustment in January and going forward to our enrollment, along with other factors, but those are the two major ones. And what you see next is a projection of what that looks like, assuming we still hold to pattern as the year goes on and where we expect to end. So when we're projecting ahead to budget, when you look at and approve your final budget, we'll be much closer to that end. So we'll know more specifically what we expect that to be. But at this current point in time, halfway through the year, that's where we're expecting our ending fund balance to be. A couple of factors to go in there. An increase of $103,000 based on the adjustment in revenue. That's the overall increase, and the estimated increase for enrollment is $208,000. We do have some increased spending in materials, supplies, operating costs, our MSOCs, somewhat related to the increase in enrollment, more related to the increase of the price of things. And part of that is also additional spending for some children and students who have higher needs than are funded by the state. So that funding comes in a separate grant called Safety Net. Because that's additional revenue that's tied to additional spending, we're basically leaving it out of this factor. When we think about the ending fund balance, the safety net funding, which is potentially near $600,000, if we look at an overall total fund balance of $1.2 million, $600,000 is half of that, and that money will come in on the very last fiscal day of our year, the very last day of our fiscal year. So the state will hold it until then and then give it to us on August 31st.
Is that like a guarantee that that will come on October 31st?
It'll come in August. I'm sorry if I said October. August 31st.
Oh, August. Yeah,
yes,
okay.
Sorry. It's not guaranteed. We got preliminary, and by we, I mean Director Kohler has done a lot of work to get that grant together, and we've submitted our initial paperwork that was due this month, and we will do another submission of finalized costs in June or July, and that's when they will dedicate those funds. But so far, the grant is looking good.
Okay, it wouldn't, is there a chance it would not come through till the following fiscal year?
No, it will
Okay.
land in this fiscal year.
Okay, so
Or if it doesn't, we can account for it in this fiscal
in
year.
this fiscal year?
Yes.
Okay, okay. Other questions?
More of a comment, excuse me, since we have an audience this evening, it's kind of rare. I want to point out and publicly thank the incredibly hard work that Dr. Frazier's doing on this budget. It is not easy, particularly when the money is as unpredictably delivered as it is from the state of Washington and our elected leaders in Olympia. There's a lot of school boards in the country who don't enjoy seeing a full audience for their meetings. I'm super excited that you guys are here. I'm super grateful that we were able to listen to these young men speak to us, but I'm also excited that the adults and the parents are here to be able to see this work, because this is really important. This is the kind of stuff that Dr. Frazier and Dr. Bruner's team are doing every day and every week and every month for us. So it's not just when we go out and ask for a levy that we're like, surprise. This is the kind of work that's been going on the entire time behind the scenes, and it's super important. So we love seeing a full audience, and we hope that you'll please continue to come. Please continue to stay engaged. Please continue to get involved with this kind of stuff, because it's super important, because it allows us to make sure that when we go out to the community and say the levy pays for the extras, like wrestling, like drama, like all of these things, that we can really mean it and make sure that it does go to the intended places. So that was an opportunity to say thank you for being here, and please keep coming, because this is important stuff for you guys to be engaged with.
Thank you. I was going to say, I super appreciate you, Brian, and the risk pool for being able to do what you did with the insurance payment. I know that the last 2 years in June, we've had to borrow to be able to even make payroll because of the smallness of our fund balance, which is what the fund balance is for, or for those months when the state apportionment hasn't come in and we have to pay the bills still. So I think that in addition to making up a little bit of ground with the fund balance, so we're not in that position in the future of having to borrow just to pay people, being able to like pay that insurance payment over 3 months instead of all at once in June, when the state has not given us, I think you've said before, what's the percentage that we haven't gotten yet?
22.5%.
22.5% of the money that they give us, even though the school year is over, and we've had to pay for lots of things at that point. So I appreciate you I don't know who thought of it and what the creativity was to be able to go to them and say, can we pay this differently? But I think that will safeguard us, in addition to building back the fund balance, from having to borrow in June, for which we have to owe, interest when we do that. So it's costing us money to have to borrow in June when we've had to do that the last 2 years. So appreciate that. Any other questions or comments? All right,
Okay,
thank you. All right, we have committee updates, so I'll let Jack kick us off with the WIAA update.
Yeah, thank you. I sent each of you earlier this week our proposed response to the District 1 question for the public. As many of you probably know, every year WIA solicits or entertains proposed amendments to the rulebook. This year there were 35 proposed amendments that covered the gamut from girls JV, softball, mercy rule rules, to everything to do with running clock for flag football and everything in between. Many, many, many things. There were 35 of them. As the WIA rep, I worked with our athletic director and Dr. Dewey to kind of get an idea of what the impact would look like at the high school, and then also at the middle level. We're not administrators or athletic directors, so we wanted to get their perspective on what these proposed rule changes look like. I was really grateful to Justin Ports for taking the time to explain those to me. We ended up casting our board recommendations, that's all they were, through WASDA, aligned with how the athletic director, as well as his colleagues around the Northwest Conference District, cast theirs. So there were 35 proposed amendments. We cast our recommendations in alignment with Justin Ports and his colleagues. To include, there were 2 proposed amendments that were non-binding. They were informational votes only, and the area athletic directors chose to not vote on that, and we didn't either, just because they were advisory in nature only, and the topics were already addressed by state law, and there was really no reason for us to wade into that. So if anybody's interested in what those were, I think you can find them on the WIA website. or you can talk to Coach Ports or hit me up, and I'd be happy to let you know what they were and what our recommendations were.
Thank you, Jack. Appreciate you doing that and reaching out to get information and then letting our voice be heard in that process. So appreciate that. Meredith, for a legislative update.
There's been a lot of back and forth this week as the legislative session closes and the governor gets all of the recommendations to his desk. And we talked about it. Dr. Bruner and I've talked about it, and most of you know, but just since we have public today, the legislative session in our minds did not do anything to support education in Washington State. There were a lot of cuts to programs that are really important to students and schools. We are rather fortunate in Anacortes School District that most of those cuts are not going to impact us, or they will impact us in small ways. So other districts were not as fortunate. I think the moral of the story is that our state legislature continues to fail students. And the only way for us to continue to work hard to have our voices heard is for the public to engage with us when the time comes. And we encourage you to listen to those opportunities and to take part in those opportunities. And unfortunately, that's now not for another 10 months or 9 months. But we'll continue to do that work and share those opportunities with everyone. And we don't know all of the impacts yet to Anacortes School District. Dr. Frazier shared with us tonight that the governor has not signed all of the bills yet or the budget, so we're still waiting on the information. And then what happens is the state superintendent's office tells Dr. Frazier and Dr. Bruner, here is the tools that you will use to figure out what the impact is to your district. So we're hoping to have that in time for them to work on the budget without stress timelines, as less stressless as possible. And so we're still waiting to know exactly how it impacts us. However, the moral of the story is that the Washington state legislators need to do better for our students.
Thank you, Meredith. And while two things on that note. One, while we don't anticipate huge impacts to our district, the rising costs of things like insurance and electricity and gasoline and all the things is still going up, and so it actually is a negative for us because
they're not giving us any more money to cover those
cover
things.
those
We
things.
just are having less impact than some other districts in the cuts that they're making. So there's no more money coming, but we won't be as impacted by the cuts. But you're right, Jenny.
Yep. And then also just, I know we've said it before, but a gratitude for our community for stepping forward and filling the gap from what the state's not funding by passing our levy. And that's really making that at this point in time is really making a difference for our kids and our community while our state legislature is not coming through. So, yep. All right, we will move into policy governance then. We have a pillar of report evaluation that the board heard the pillar report last month for quality instruction and curriculum. We had a great executive session with Dr. Bruner where we talked about all of the positive things happening with quality instruction and curriculum and spoke about some of the opportunities ahead under this pillar. I don't know if you want to name anything from this one, Dr. Bruner, if you want us to take a vote and move to the stewardship pillar, but the evaluation is there for everybody to look at, and it's really summarizes what the board and discuss with Dr. Bruner in terms of what's going well and where we can continue to get better.
Sure. So I guess I would point to the work that Dr. Mitchell-Muma has done in getting to know what the lay of the land is with regard to curriculum and instruction in our classrooms. And that has taken a lot of time, as you can imagine, and she really has done a great job of identifying what the strengths are and what our challenges are. And it will really help plot our course forward. in terms of trying to build back some of our curriculum and instructional supports.
Great, thank you. So I will take a motion to approve the quality instruction and curriculum pillar evaluation.
So moved.
Thank you, Meredith. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Diana. All those in favor?
Aye.
Great. So we're going to have our report this evening on the stewardship pillar, and the board got to spend a little bit of time on stewardship during our study session before the business meeting this evening, but looking forward to this report. I'm assuming Dr. Fraser's going to come and co-present with Dr. Bruner on
He
this one.
certainly is. So when Dr. Fraser and I took our jobs this year, we knew that we were coming into a situation where the focus was going to be right here, and had to be, because we had all researched the recent history of Anacortes schools with regard to budget challenges, and we knew that there had been about a $5 million impact over the course of the past 3 years, and that going into this school year, the board had passed a pretty austere budget. So coming in, we knew that that was going to be a focus, and we also knew that that kind of austerity, you can limp along like that for a year or two, but it's not sustainable. It just simply isn't. The work is too important, and when you end up with old, outdated, inadequate curriculum and materials for classrooms, and a lack of professional learning for staff, and just the list goes on and on. Again, we knew we needed to do something to end the 25-26 school year better than we found it. So this is a half year into that story. This is just a reminder of your stewardship 5-year goals and key performance indicators. And all of these come right out of the district's strategic plan. So the 5-year strategic goal is in the second column. Third column are the key performance indicators. And then one of the things about this district that I find unique to some degree, and I would give credit to the board for that, is that things are pretty doggone aligned. So when we talk about goals, when we talk about KPIs, when we talk about the superintendent's focus goal, when we talk about what our department goals are in cabinet for each of our operational departments, when we talk about what our school improvement plan goals are, and when we talk about what teachers' classroom goals are, it is very aligned, and it is difficult to get there. So congratulations. This, you'll remember, is my targeted goal for the stewardship pillar. And no surprise, it had to do with 5-year goal 4.1, which was to renew our local levies to support operations, technology, safety, student activities, curriculum and instruction, the list goes on and on. And our 5-year KPO, our key performance outcome, was to pass those levies with a simple majority. And here were the action items. And I believe that you approved this back in October. So we have made some progress under goal 4.1, and I apologize for the wonky font here. That is not aligned, and I take responsibility for that. But we definitely have gained some momentum, and we have some opportunities. We did, thankfully, pass both our educational programs and operations levy and our technology and capital facilities levy. Both these levies were renewals at the 50 plus 1% simple majority threshold. And when we look at our passage rate, we were, I remember election night, which I know the district has been used to that being a pretty celebratory occasion. We were not in, I was not, I'll speak for myself, in a celebratory mood when I left that gathering that night, because that is way too close for a first count. And so we were disappointed that the outcomes were as low as they were, and yet we got them over the hump. And we knew that with all of the headwinds that we faced, that it was going to be difficult. And yes, indeed, it did not disappoint. One of the things that the 6-year capital facilities levy will do, it's not the 6-year capital levy, is the capital levy and technology levy will do is it will provide support for us to address some of the priority major maintenance items that have been identified in our 6-year capital facility plan. The other thing I think that was a celebration was we had a high level of public engagement in this election. And that included a robust no campaign and a robust yes campaign. And at the end of the day, that's what democracy is all about, right? You stand up, you talk about and lobby for what you think is right, and the vote decides it. In terms of opportunities, I've listed a couple, and these are both learnings for us, or certainly the first one is we need to do a much better job of communicating starting now every single day of every single school year for the next 4 years about materials, equipment, activities, and projects that are funded by our EPO and capital levies. Because people's memories are short, and our memories are short as well. And we oftentimes fall into a habit of emphasizing that for a while, and then our attention gets pulled in other directions, and we can lose some of that momentum. I am quite sure that will not happen this time around. Secondly, we have the opportunity to engage the board, and we started in tonight's work study session in taking a look at the funding that will be coming in for the next 4 years for the maintenance projects that were identified in our capital facilities plan and will be funded by our capital levy. And with this, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Dr. Frazier.
Thank you. So as an opportunity to talk a little more specifically about some of the projects that the board heard about earlier and the public will hear about now and as we go forward, while we set priorities for what happens first and how we schedule out those projects, sometimes projects will prioritize themselves in different ways. That could be something that simply needs to be done, or it will cost more or cause more damage later. Or sometimes there's an opportunity that comes with a matching funding or an outside grant to move forward on a project. So a couple of those things that are happening as we need to come into compliance with the Clean Building Standard Act, we need to find some ways to be more efficient in our energy use. And as such, the district has pursued a grant in partnership with ATS, it's our automation HVAC group, but they also do these grants and work as what's called an ESCO, an energy company, where we don't have to go out for procurement and work with bids. We can simply work for energy saving projects with them directly through Department of Enterprise Services. So we've put together a grant that at the district cost of $125,000, if we receive the grant, the district will pay $125,000 and the grant will pay for the rest of a project that was scheduled to cost just over $560,000, making $435,000 of our local taxpayer dollars available to support other projects. So, for example, we could use that for accessibility on a playground that we hadn't scheduled accessibility for, or we could use that for, instead of just upgrading the light bulbs, we could upgrade some of the fixtures. So that would be a significant savings in local dollars for the district and also help us come into compliance with Clean Building Standard Act. So it's two goals that we could complete in one if we receive the grant. I want to be clear that we haven't yet, but we have put out for it, and we should know by the end of next month at the latest. Another project that prioritized itself was the lead and water remediation. There were some communications that went out after some testing that happened in November and December that found that two of our faucets it was a drinking fountain that wasn't being used and a faucet in a sink that wasn't being used, but they tested with more than 15 parts per billion of lead in the water. So those were immediately shut off and required immediate remediation. We've done that. And then within 6 months of that testing, we're required to put forth a plan, which the board has on their consent agenda today, to remediate anything that is over 5 parts per billion. So we had several sinks and a couple of drinking fountains that are, again, not well used. And I should say, while we're talking about this, that the majority of the drinking water that folks drink on our campuses comes from filtered water stations that the board put into those facilities years ago, and that's where we get our water. So I do not think that we were drinking water that had even 1 part per billion of lead in it, and that water is accessible in all facilities except for Whitney. And I will mention again that at Whitney, the Department of Health did not test at Whitney because it's not a K-12 facility. So the district worked with a local contractor in Burlington to conduct our own tests and found that water, again, to be clean and good. So no remediation necessary. All that to say that because we had some outlets that tested above 5 parts per billion, we went for a grant with OSPI, and through the state capital budget, we're funded almost $25,000 to swap out some of the faucets, to put up hand washing only signs in some of the sinks that may have elevated levels of lead, and to install 2 additional filtered drinking water stations in some of our facilities. Another project that has been ongoing that we're continuing are some safety and security upgrades at the middle school. It came to our attention that the fire alarm was working well, but it didn't have a backup phone line that was active and attached to it. So we've done that, and we always had a fire alarm, so the facility was always safe. But as required per code, now if that one phone line goes out, there's a backup phone line, so 2 phone lines running to the fire alarm. And the intrusion alarm is now on and modernized and up and running. So there's been a couple of glitches in the call-out lists and who gets a call-out for when and why, and we're sorting through that, but we now do have a modernized and active intrusion alarm at the middle school. There is more work to do with that system, specifically modernizing some of the keypads, but the software, the system, is upgraded. We also currently still have 3 different companies we work with for our intrusion alarms, and we're consolidating down onto one with one modernized system that is district-wide, and then will save in labor and cost in just managing that one system instead of 3 with 3 separate vendors. So the opportunity here, again, is to implement a maintenance schedule that now we have funding for the next 4 years through that capital levy. Again, thank you to the voters and to everybody who went forth for an effort for that, and everyone who was involved civically and publicly for that. And working with the board today, we began a process for the board to prioritize and create a schedule. And what we decided today was we need a short-term schedule for the things we're going to do, and we also need to engage in some long-term planning about the health of our facilities and how we expect that to play out over the term of several more levies in the 10 to 12-year range. So that's the work we'll engage in as an opportunity for Goal 4.2.
Moving forward to our 26-27 budget, we will be able to count on 1/2 of the first year's collection of both levies, and that will be very helpful and much welcomed. We still face a variety of financial challenges, as do all districts. Many districts, including ours, have declining enrollment, and we believe that that will happen again for us this coming year. Compensation gaps, what we pay our employees compared to what the state reimburses us for compensation, is significantly different. We all know about rising costs. What we didn't know a couple of months ago was that gas and oil were really going to be a part of that. So that is going to have to factor in here. And of course, insufficient state funding. We do, thankfully, enjoy some very stable and helpful, robust community partnerships. And yet, as we shared with you during your work study session, our community partners are not immune to budget pressures. And so we are seeing some pullback in what we're able to count on from those partnerships. Not all, but some. Our budget development process will start with a survey, and it will go first of all, to all families and community, and we're basically going to ask them for input on what they value. What's their priority number 1, 2, and 3 in our pillar areas from the strategic plan. Following that, we'll send out that survey to staff as well. And then with that data, we will get together at the district level and develop a draft budget, take it to the superintendent's advisory council, which is a group of a number of community members for their vetting, and then come back, rework, go back. It's an iterative process, as you well know, and that will involve a couple, at least, work study sessions with the board. And then we will get to a balanced budget, which you will pass no later than the end of August. So I just want to make one last comment, actually with several embedded comments. This has been a pretty narrowly focused report on stewardship, but what I don't want to miss, what I don't want you to miss, what I don't want the public to miss is that the work that has been done on getting us to a healthier place is beyond what I would have imagined we would have been able to do. If you go back to that fund balance projected versus actual through March, or I think it was probably February, that tells the story. In February, we were projecting a fund balance of $35,000. This is a $50 million organization. If you've got $35,000 in the bank, you can't make it. You cannot make payroll. You cannot pay your bills. So you have to go out and take a loan. And we were worried that we were going to have to go to the county for a loan because our internal sources were not robust enough to afford that. Where we didn't have to do any of that, largely because of a number of factors, including the budget that you passed very thoughtfully, which was, again, austere, but very responsible. Secondly, just very, very close, watchful attitudes towards the budget that extended from the district office to principals and teachers as well. I mean, teachers weren't watching the budget, but they knew what the story was, and they weren't asking for things that they needed because they knew it wasn't there. And that goes for our classified employee staff as well. Another factor had to do with the work that Dr. Frazier's done to identify grant sources that can help address a variety of different needs. Not huge, but a bit here and a bit here and a bit here. And that just has been extremely helpful. So overall, I think that this district has been very good stewards of taxpayer dollars, and that we are in a better position now than we were 8-10 months ago. And I believe that will be true at the end of this year, but we'll see. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bruner, and thank you, Dr. Frazier. I think we'll talk for a second about the pillar report, but I'll just name that I think that I don't know that we've had a pillar report yet that's come mid-year where we can take the superintendent's targeted goals and just mark, yep, that was accomplished. So the focus on the levy, which we knew how critical, I don't even know if critical is a strong enough word, but we knew how critical that was. And so it feels really good to be able to say, yes, we did that. And just, really gratitude to you, to Dr. Frazier, to Nikki, to everybody in the district who supported that effort. Because we wouldn't be in the same place if we weren't able to say that we passed the two levies. So I'll just start by saying, accommodations to you and to the team for all of the work that they did. And obviously it wouldn't have been successful without the community's support as well, and the Anacortes for Citizens for Anacortes Schools group and everyone. But anyway, I think this is one of the only times we'll probably see a pillar report in the middle of the year and be able to say, yes, we've accomplished what the targeted goal was. So
I just want to remind anybody watching those in the library with us tonight, one of the comments that Meredith made earlier was because of our elected leaders' inaction in Olympia, it puts an increased premium on these local levies. And it takes them from being something where, they're entirely focused on providing extras, and it converts it into something that's existential to the survival of a school district. And I would encourage anybody watching, anybody here tonight, to please keep that in mind the next time you get a mailer or an email or a postcard from our elected leaders in Olympia. They do wonderful work. They're good people with good hearts. But the school district is the beating heart of a community, particularly one as small as ours. And when we continually communicate the existential nature of our finances and then continue to see zero action and very little advocacy, it can only lead to a number of questions. And I think that it would be really valuable, like Dr. Bruner's point earlier about the civic engagement, part of the democratic process, to engage with these folks and let them know what that threat looks like to your family, what it looks like to your kids' opportunities, and what it means to you on an individual and personal basis. And hopefully we'll start getting through. Last thing, I know when we talk about things like LED lights and efficient this and efficient that, it's not the most glamorous things to talk about spending our capital funds on, but it's really important from the stewardship perspective because it means that our utility bills go down. And while that in of itself isn't particularly glamorous, it matters a lot when we're trying to do long-term budgeting and we know that our bills are going to be predictable and, more importantly, they're going to be lower. The last thing on that point with the capital projects is, despite the fact that we've got a lot of really, really hardworking maintenance and groundskeeping crew in the district who have been working very hard for the last several years, on the big ticket stuff, we've really been just treading water because we haven't had the money or the predictable money to be able to do a lot of these big projects that are important. And we were conscious of when we went out and asked the community for an increase on the capital levy that it was going to be a tough ask. But by the community saying yes, it allows us to do things like address lead pipes, it allows us to address boilers, it allows us to address septic tanks and roofs, things that, again, in of themselves aren't particularly glamorous, but they're really, really important. And once we get through those, then we can start going after things like, new swing sets and new carpet and new books and the stuff that really looks good on Facebook and social media. But we've got to work through the important stuff first. And it's not going to be fancy. It's not going to be big ribbon cuttings around a new boiler. But it is the kind of stuff that proves it endures and it's important. So I just want to say thank you for the community for supporting us in that effort. And there is a plan. It's a very well thought out plan by Dr. Bruner and his team. And we look forward to sharing a lot of that progress.
We're going to talk a bit later, but I want a couple of things. One, I don't, this will be double negative, I don't dislike a short, succinct pillar report. Thank you. And duly noted to Dr. Everett in the audience. What I really want to say, and Dr. Bruner talked at the end a little bit about this, is that, Dr. Bruner and Dr. Frazier came into the district and were handed this with very little time with us. And we have a new district team, a good number of them. And I feel almost like this is, not to overstate it, but nothing short of miraculous. The fact that you were new to the roles and you led the district team and the building leaders through this process in 6 short months and accomplished all of this and have us in a healthier position from a financial standpoint. And it feels really, really good. And I hope that you feel proud and know that that hard work, that the 5 of us, we're incredibly appreciative, and we sleep better at night because you did that work. So thank you.
It's mostly all been said, but Nikki, I will need a giant purple bow for the boiler too, because this is a big deal. And I'm grateful to everyone for supporting it.
Yeah, and I'll just name, I appreciate the financial challenges that are on this particular slide moving forward. I think that this might be the first year in quite a few years that we haven't had to make really hard, deep cuts. It doesn't mean that we're out of the woods and that we have like lots of extra money but I don't think we're in a position now where we were even just last year of having to think about trade-offs for a variety of cuts, and there was frankly no good options. We were in a position of that. I think that that doesn't mean that we won't have to continue to think about the declining enrollment and the rising costs. So we're definitely not in a place of let's start building everything back. But I think that the passage of the levy is going to give us some breathing room to maintain where we're at this moment. And I think that that's, it might not feel like a win because there's some things that I'm sure lots of things we can think about that we lost over the past 3 or 4 years that we would like to be able to build back. But it's a good feeling to just not to have to keep making those deep cuts. So appreciate, again, agree with you, Meredith, it feels pretty miraculous. And really, it was a group effort. So Dr. Frazier, Dr. Bruner, and everybody who contributed to getting us to this place. It still feels a little bit like, month to month, we're still watching it. We're definitely still in a position where some big thing could set us back, but it feels a little more comfortable, and that feels good. So if there's no more comments, then we will vote to accept the brief pillar report for stewardship this evening. I'll take a motion for that.
I move to accept the stewardship pillar report.
Thank you, Diana. Is there a second? Thank you, Jack. All those in favor?
Aye.
Great. So we have new business. We actually do, Dr. Frazier, have the lead remediation plan on new business. I don't know if you want to say anything more about it. We certainly have heard a little bit about it already a couple times today as a board, but feel free to.
Yeah, I don't have much more to say except to say that we do have safe, accessible drinking water in all of our locations, and we're simply ensuring that that continues, and that any place that there may have been a slightly elevated level, that will be remediated and taken care of.
Great. And just reiterating before we take the vote that OSPI has approved this plan.
OSPI approved funding for us to do it.
Okay.
So tacitly, they don't actually approve the plan. What's required is that within 6 months of the testing, the board accepts a plan,
Okay.
and then we send it to the Department of Health. And the next time they come to do testing in 5 years, they may ask for the plan. They may forget.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions? I know we've already talked about this quite a bit. All right. I will take. Yeah, go ahead.
For the audience at home or here, there were some slides. They're on the agenda. If you want to review the slides, you can do those. You can look at those at home by clicking on the link associated with that item on the agenda.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. I will take a motion to then accept the lead remediation plan.
So moved.
Thank you, Meredith. Is there a second?
Second that.
Thank you, Heather. All those in favor?
Aye.
Great. We have the employee contract for Dr. James Everett, who is going to be our next superintendent. So I'm going to first take a motion and a second, and then we'll have some discussion if there is any. But I will take a motion to approve the employment contract.
I move we approve the employment contract.
Thank you,
for Dr. James
Diana.
Everett.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, open for some discussion.
Thank you, Jenny. I'm really grateful to have been able to work with Jenny and Dr. Everett during the contract negotiation. The word negotiation often implies a give and take, or two parties coming from different directions to try to find a compromise. And I want the public to know that was not the case here. Dr. Everett and the board began with a shared sense of purpose. We began with a shared vision and a shared commitment to continuing Dr. Bruner's outstanding work during his interim year. So this was not a matter of two people trying to get the most out of each other and a give and take bickering. This was two organizations, two parties that shared their goals and visions for the district, and it was a remarkably easy process because we do share our values and our visions for the district. The superintendent market is super competitive, and there's no shortage of desirable job opportunities. That Dr. Everett decided to pursue this position. We believe it speaks volumes about the character of our community and the sterling reputation of our school district. There are a lot of opportunities out there that he could have applied for if he was looking to continue his career, and he chose to apply here, and we chose him. And we think that this is a good match based on his talents, his experience, and the values and the priorities of this community expressed. We're grateful to be able to agree on the terms of employment, and we look forward to our community welcoming him while he spends a number of transition days with us over the spring, and then starting full-time July 1st.
Thanks, Jack. And just want to also reiterate that we were really fortunate to actually all three of the finalists had sitting superintendent experience, and super fortunate to be able to hire Dr. Everett to come with all the experience as a serving superintendent in Meridian that he brings with him. Familiar with our local area, with our region, and I'll just name that the contract is a reflection of the experience that Dr. Everett brings to our district, and so we're happy to compensate him and fairly for what the experience that he brings with him. So, anything else that anybody wants to say before we take a vote?
Welcome.
I will just say for anybody who's kind of to echo Jenny, but our community really asked for a couple very specific things, and that was somebody who really wanted to be a part of our community. And I hope you've all noticed that he's already got a sweatshirt that he showed up today in. But it was clear from first meeting you that you cared about our students and wanted to get to be a part of this community, and that's really important to us here. And so welcome and thank you.
Great. With that, I will take all those in favor of approving the employment contract for the superintendent of schools.
Aye.
Great. Thank you. All right. We have a number of policy updates. Nikki continues her work to update our policy book and get us in compliance with state law and WASDA model policy. So, and once again, she's going to multitask and share the policies while she takes notes. And there's a couple in here for a vote this evening, but most are first reads.
Good evening, board. My name is Nicole Tesh, and I am here to provide you the policy updates for March 19th. I made a spelling error. Either that or I put the wrong report up. No, that's the right one. I just forgot to change the date. I do want to mention that we had another glitch. As you can see, I signed back into our portal, which means our internet went down a little bit through that recording for a second time. So I don't know what happened or what telephone pole got hit, but it impacted our recording tonight, just to have that for the record. Tonight we have a group of policies for review, and for those who aren't aware, we are making our way through the policy book and making revisions on every single policy that we have. And now I'm second guessing myself. Yeah, this is the right one, right? Yeah, perfect. So we have these policies to go through tonight, and I'll kind of go through one by one as to the changes and the revisions that are in each policy. WASDA has identified 3 separate categories for classifying policies: critical, important, and discretionary. Critical was formerly essential, important was formerly encouraged, and discretionary has been unchanged. God bless you. First policy for review is policy 4001 and its corresponding procedure 4001P, Public Information Program. It's a first read, and this policy is deemed as important. The overall purpose of this one is to provide clear two-way communication between the district and the community for transparency, trust, and compliance. The revisions for this policy, we've had it for the past 25 years, this policy 4000. It's actually policy 4001, so I went ahead and changed that. Keep in mind that a lot of the changes that were made in this policy we are already currently doing. It's just it wasn't reflected in our policy. For example, Department of Health information is on the homepage of every school website that we have, where it's resources about substance abuse and overdose and safe storage. You'll see it at the bottom right-hand corner of every single one of our websites. And then there's also legal compliance with the Department of Health that also says that we need to share it on our website and communications twice yearly. It's scheduled for at least the next 10 years, so we're good to go there. Collect and share non-identifiable discipline data upon request. So that information is based off of the requirements that accompany that, and then publish a yearly report on district performance and compliance. We are currently in compliance. All right, so is that one okay to proceed to next month? Oh, yep, great. Next policy up is 4020, confidential communications. This is a first read, and this policy is deemed as important. Basically, the gist of this policy is about handling confidential student information. In the revisions that are identified in this policy is if there is a safety threat that it is allowable to share confidential info as deemed as by limited parties by FERPA. So there's law enforcement would be an example of one of those. If we had a safety threat, we would be able to have that. Again, that is in relations to an RCW and state law. So we are just aligning our policy and practice with state law. Okay to proceed on that one? Perfect. Yep. All right, next policy is policy 4301, improvement districts and licensing of business. This is a vote for tonight, and I am recommending that the board remove this policy. The original purpose of this policy is to guide the district's role in community improvement efforts and advocate for safe and appropriate land use around schools. The reason for removal is local jurisdictions already do this. Decisions about forming improvement districts or regulating business activity near school sites are largely specific to each community and are better addressed by the district and at a local level than rather a statewide model policy. So I'm recommending that we remove this policy.
Thank you. And just to reiterate, this has been removed from WASDA's model policy book as well?
That is correct.
Great. All right. If there's no questions, I will take a motion to approve the removal of policy 4301.
Move to approve the removal of policy 4301.
Thank you, Jack. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Diana. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, next policy up is policy 4314 and its corresponding procedure 4314P, notification of threats of violence and harm. The original purpose of this policy was timely notification and appropriate response when students and staff are threatened, balancing safety, legal requirements, and FERPA protections. And it sounds like we're removing this and it's a bad thing, but please know that the important pieces of this are spread out throughout many important policies that identify it. So this language was outdated. And also, it's better if it's tailored per district, which we have done in our other policies. So you'll see it kind of sprinkled throughout the 2,000, 3,000, and 6,000 section. So I recommend removal.
Great. Any questions on this one? Okay. I will take a motion then to approve the removal of policy 4314.
So moved.
Thank you, Meredith. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Heather. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, next policy up is policy 4315, release of information concerning sexual and kidnapping offenders. Tonight, this is a vote. The original purpose of this policy is to outline the district's role in sharing information for law enforcement about sex and kidnapping offenders with staff, parents, students, and community to support public safety. So a few months ago, do you guys remember us working on a policy that basically had this identical information where we follow state law? So this policy was put in the 6,000 section, but removed from the 4,000 section. So we've already adopted it in the 6,000 section to make it more relevant, but that means we need to remove it from the 4,000 section. So this one has also been removed from the WASDA policy book, so that we are in alignment with current state law and follow RCW 4.24.550.
Nikki, where in the 6,000 series can I find this replacement?
I will send it to you. Exactly.
Thank you.
We just approved it 4 months ago, but I don't remember the number off the top of my head.
Thank you. Any other questions on this one? Okay, I will take a motion then to approve the removal of policy 4315.
So moved.
Thank you, Meredith. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Diana. All those in favor? Great.
All right, next policy up is policy 6100 and the corresponding procedure 6100P, revenues from local, state, and federal sources. This is a first read, and this policy has been deemed critical. The purpose of this policy is to establish how the district secures, manages, and uses local, state, and federal revenues in compliance with law. The revisions of this policy, if you take a look at the track changes, it's quite a bit. This was a policy that hadn't been updated since 1998, so we were just making sure that the revisions that we made to the policies were what we do with current practice. Some of those revisions involve local revenues, where it's being used for only enrichment beyond basic education. You can kind of see that revision kind of throughout the entire document. And adding in supports, extras like staffing programs and activities. Those weren't identified in the policy, so it just made it a little bit clearer. And then the revisions also included audit response, state grants, and then Title I funds, and then federal impact funds.
Any questions on this? I'm assuming Brian had a hand in looking at this. And
all of these policies were reviewed by all necessary parties. If it's on transportation, it goes through the entire cabinet, and then it'll go through Connie and Brian. We all have a piece in making sure that all of these things are reviewed appropriately.
Awesome. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, just a reminder, this will show up on our consent agenda next month, and the procedure is just FYI. Board doesn't vote on procedure, but we'll have an opportunity to vote on the policy. Thank you. Next one.
As you can tell, I'm a little bit of a policy pusher with the amount that we have here. All right, next policy is policy 6220 and the corresponding procedure 6220P, bid or request for proposal requirements. This is a vote tonight. And the reason why I established this one as a vote is because we're very much out of compliance on the law on this one. And so I want to make sure that we are up to par. But there was a few revisions that are in the policy. So if this does need to be moved to next month, I'll go ahead and mark that. But I saw this one as an urgent need. The purpose of this policy is to establish clear and compliant procurement and bidding procedures that ensure responsible use of public funds. The revisions include a threshold increase from 15,000, where it was previously 10,000. Mid-range purchasing was increased from the range of 15,000 to 350,000. It was previously 250,000. And the formal bidding now required at 350,000, previously 250,000. And then there's an emphasis on price reasonableness and documentation for auditing purposes.
Thank you. Any questions on this one? All right, I will take a motion then to approve policy 6220, bid or request for proposal requirements.
So moved.
Thank you, Meredith. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Heather. All those in favor?
Aye.
I am super impressed by these wrestlers, by the way. I just want to point that out, that you guys are still here. This is something. I'm proud of you guys. As endurance, yeah. All right, next policy up is policy 6513 and its corresponding procedure 6513P, workplace violation protection. Tonight, this is a first read, and this policy is deemed as discretionary. The purpose of this policy is to prevent workplace violence by establishing expectations, reporting procedures, and support systems that promote a safe and secure working environment for all employees. The revisions of this policy, including if there is it allows the survivors to request confidentiality of personal information under public law. So if someone passes away and their spouse needs their confidential information so that they can access their records, then they can do that under public records law. Requirements for procedures for submitting documentation to protest identity. And another revision is expands role of prevention group to support and review protections of affected employees. So this policy is a first read if we would like to move it to the next meeting.
Thank you. And just again, for the record, Nikki, this just
Yes.
is off of model policy from WASDA.
Correct.
Great. Any other questions? or
Well,
comments?
and any
And-
recommended language that was given by cabinet. Yes.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? All right, I think we're good with that one.
Next policy up is policy 6530, insurance. This is the first read, and this policy has been deemed as important. The policy of this one is to provide insurance coverage. It's plain and simple. The revisions of this one is just making it compliant with state law, making clarification in regards to coverage from Washington Department of Labor and Industries, workplace injuries information that was not identified in there, affirms commitment to fair treatment in workers' comp matters, and then it also gives clarification on SEB benefits.
Great, thank you. Any other questions on this one? Great.
All right. Next policy is policy 6535, student insurance, and this is a first read, and this policy is deemed as important. The purpose of this policy is to offer optional student insurance coverage and ensure providers meet standards for service responsiveness and compliance. So this is for athletes. If they do not have medical insurance, they can opt in at an affordable rate through the district to have student insurance. And so this policy allows it. Offering student insurance is not required by law. So this is a policy that is deemed as important, but it is discretionary to districts. The revisions of this policy, because we've had it in effect since 1998, it just was pretty out of date. The district may offer optional student insurance, which we do. The superintendent or designee, and in this case, would be the director of finance and operations, that gets quotes and recommends providers to the board. We've used the same provider for the past 15 years, maybe 20. The board approves the provider, so it kind of dictates the process that we go about finding this student insurance. We can't just pick someone. It just kind of identifies that process. And it also adds a little bit of information about what to look for in those providers in those edits, so that we kind of have some standards to base those firms on, right?
Any questions on this one?
Is there a place that one can easily find out what that costs to a family?
Yes.
Where is that?
I think the last time we checked, it's under $100. And we also, is that
A
correct,
month?
Ryan? Yeah, it is under $100. We also have a fund set up at,
It's like, you know, my
I think
next
it's
question.
2 of the schools that people have donated,
Okay.
where it will pay for these funds. So even if someone did need to pay for this additional supplemental insurance, there's a, I guess we would call it a care fund, to be able to help the families pay for that.
Thank you.
Mhm.
That per season or per year?
Per school year.
Great. Any other questions on this one? All right.
Last
last
one, you
one.
guys. Policy 633 or 6630, driver training and responsibility. This is a first read, and this policy is deemed as discretionary. The purpose of this policy is to ensure student safety on buses by setting clear driver qualifications, responsibilities, and supervision rules. Again, this is to identify this is our current practice, but the policy did not match our current practice. The revisions of this policy include that we have to meet OSPI and legal requirements, which we do. That we have safety information, and it kind of identifies what those safety things are, such as seatbelts, reporting issues, securing the bus, keys with authorized personnel only, the operation that only authorized drivers are allowed to drive the bus. So unfortunately, our kids are not allowed to drive. No personal device use except in emergencies. Again, current practice. Student supervision to ensure that rules are followed and that the driver has the final authority. And then there also is a section in there about chartered and subcontracted buses. As we know, in the past 2 years, we've had to subcontract additional buses based off of bus driver availability for things such as state. And so that language wasn't necessarily in our policy, but we did follow the policy guidance in regards to that and how that works within our policy. So now the policy matches the practice.
Any other questions about that one? All right, great. So all of the first reads we will see on our consent agenda next month. Thank you again, Nikki, for, I know the board set this goal a while back to get us all into compliance, and I appreciate you continuing, and the cabinet and everybody else too, because we know that you're all spending time with these policies, so thank you. We are going to move into our consent agenda. Before we vote, just want to elevate that there is a donation, and continue to be thankful every time we see a donation on our consent agenda that is supporting kids and some of the needs. And so this particular one is for $5,000 for band instrument needs for students. And so just happy that we continue to have community groups and individuals who come forward and support our kids for some of those extra things that they need. Any other questions on or comments about the consent agenda before we vote? I know Zephyrin also mentioned the film festival that it has been an ongoing tradition year after year that the digital media group gets to go to.
I just want to build on Ron Leitzinger is the donor for the band stuff. He's an amazing community member, a Rotarian, and very generous. So just echoing what Jenny said. If my fellow board members don't have any further comment, I'll move that we approve a consent agenda items A through G.
Thank you, Jack. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Diana. All those in favor?
Aye.
Great. So we have a board calendar. In April, we have a site visit at Cap Sandy High School. I'm assuming we'll start probably here at AHS for that. Always a highlight of our year is getting to visit Cap Sandy. And then April 23rd will be our study session and evening business meeting. We have a May 7th site visit, also a highlight to go and visit Northwest Career and Technical Academy. Hopefully most of our board members can make that because there's lots of fun things to see there. And then our study session and business meeting May 21st, our June 4th study session and business meeting. We don't have a site visit in June, but we have lots of graduations and other events to look forward to. So an early study session and business meeting. I think this is the first year actually that it hasn't fallen on the same week as graduation. So whoever made this calendar happen, we appreciate you, that we don't have to show up here for a board meeting the day after graduation, which has maybe always been the case when I've been on the board. So that's our board calendar. With that, we are going to move to our executive session. The board's going to take about a 5-minute break. It's 5 enough? Okay, we'll start at 8:10 in the conference room per RCW 4231-1109G to review the performance of a public employee stewardship pillar report evaluation. And we will take 30 minutes, and so we will adjourn at 8:40. Thank you all for being here and for sticking out the entire board meeting. I think somebody else said it was impressive, and that's true.
I love it.